Hi, my name's John Boston. Pain is a part of the human fabric. We have all experienced it. Pain is really a great equalizer. No one can escape it. I have never met my biological parents. When an elementary school teacher asked what my life goal was, my response, I want to be a dad. I felt deep pain as a doctor told my wife and I that we would never have children. I've experienced fear promulgated by racism. I was in a near-death car accident and now I live with a traumatic brain injury. Pain has been an ongoing part of my journey. I'm sure you can relate. Why? Because I know that pain has been a part of your story as well. We have a choice though. Allow our pain to stop us or use the pain to propel us to a brighter future. I'd like to invite you to join me for a short series I've recorded entitled Leading from Your Pain. To register, press the button below. Let's explore a path through the pain you have faced. You can watch this series right now at maxlifeevents.com/pain. River. All right, good night, everyone. I am so glad that each of you have decided to be in this beautiful environment as we talk about hope for hurting hearts. I'm John Boston. I'm going to be speaking a little bit later, but before I do that, I want to say to River Brittany Taylor, you're watching right now, and you've got an ill son at home. I'm so glad that you could tune in. I want you to know we're praying for you. And I'm going to talk all about through this series the impact that prayer can have on our lives. And so thanks so much for tuning in. I also want to say hello to some of our guests here tonight. Where's Noah Harris? Where's Noah Harris? Noah Harris. Noah, you're going to get a $25 gift card because you're one of our first guests I laid eyes on when I came. Put your hands together for Noah Harris. Put your hand up. So glad that you're here. And because I like to give things away, I'm going to go with one other name. That name is Maricela Garcia. Where's Maricela Garcia? Right there, right there. Maricela Garcia. We're going to give you a $25 gift card as well. Tonight, if you're watching, I've got some beautiful gifts for you. And what I'd like to do, if you're watching and you put in the comments that you just type the word hope in the comments, I'm going to choose two of you and I'll send you a direct message and you'll get a gift card from us for $25 as well. We'll send that to you in the mail if you're right here in this Spartanburg region. So make sure you do that. Send us a direct message and write the word hope in the comments. Right now, I want to introduce a friend of mine. He's our digital host for tonight. So as you comment online, he's absolutely right there tuning in. I want you to put your hands together and just say, welcome online to Ross Knight.
Thank you, John. Thank you for everybody who is here. Thank you for those of you who are tracking with us online. You know, it was really interesting as I was sitting before our kids went off to childcare. I was talking to some of the girls over here, and one of them, Juliana, she says, "Hey, you know, we weren't going to come tonight. We were actually going to go home. My grandmother was saying we were just going to go home tonight, and we're going to watch online. But you know, the thing is they learned a little bit about the Holy Spirit today." And they decided to make a U-turn and come and join us here this evening. So we're happy that they made that decision. But we're also happy for those of you who are watching online. We're excited that you're able to join with us. In fact, John, I heard from Willie. He was saying, "I'm ready to be blessed." Okay, so listen, people are not wanting to leave here without receiving a blessing. I know you're up to the task for that. Wanted to ask you guys, is there anybody here for the very first time? Is anyone here for the first time? Okay, I'm seeing a couple hands that are here presently. What about online? Is anybody here who is watching maybe for the very first time right now? I'm seeing a lot of people who are saying they're watching right now. I don't know if they're here for the first time or not, but we're excited. Now, I know most of you who are here presently are probably here from Spartanburg County. Who thinks they drove here the very furthest? Anybody? Anybody come farther than maybe Greenville, South Carolina? Anybody from Greenville here? Greer? Boiling Springs? I can, okay, I got a few of those. I'm from Boiling Springs myself. Anybody right here from Spartanburg? Okay, of course, we got a number of Spartanburg people. You know, it's interesting. It's really neat how we can come together. A lot of you don't know each other, but I hope by the time we finish these meetings that you'll have some new friends, that you will have lifelong friends, in fact. I hope that this meeting will help facilitate that, and we'll be able to build and grow relationships with each other. Well, hey, John, one more thing is, you weren't kidding. Your mom is your biggest fan. I mean, she has commented here a whole bunch of times. I think she's even recruiting people to watch right now. I think she's actually trying to get you to throw one of those $25 gift cards her way in the mail. I think that would be okay also. No, I'm so happy that each of you have decided to come and to be able to receive a blessing today. And here's the thing, is that each of us have come here, and it's just like anything. You know, when you go into a grocery store, when you go into a restaurant, you really truly don't know what somebody is going through who is right next to you. You know, have you ever felt like maybe you're in a drive-through and you felt like your food wasn't getting to you on time? You started to think some thoughts towards that person, and you're thinking, I just can't believe they're doing that. Well, you know what? You really truly can't know exactly what that person has been to or what kind of day that they're having. I want to tell you that it's like that in this room as well. I know that each of us here has something going on in our lives. There's something happening that has brought you to this place. Something has happened that you desire hope. And just like I asked last night, is there anybody here who desires hope in your life? Everybody here raising their hands. I imagine those of you who are tracking with us online as well, you are tuning in right now because you want to receive hope. Oh, I see. It says Gwendolyn Clark. It's a great. See, Carla Boston is recruiting her friends to come and watch with us right now. That's great to hear. And you know, we also have people from out of state. We got several people, in fact, who are watching online all the way up in Michigan. And so that's the beauty of being able to have a series that is happening in person, but also online, because it's not just those of you who are sitting in round tables right now, a little bit distanced right now because of COVID and things. It's not just the people who are here presently, but it's also all of us coming together, whether over Facebook Live or YouTube or otherwise, that we've been able to come together and to grow together. I'm real excited that we can join together and be able to learn more about our God in heaven. So thank you again. We're gonna go ahead and continue now and look. And one last thing before I get off the stage, I want to let you guys know, if you have any questions tonight for John or for our guest who will be up here a little bit later, we're gonna have a little bit of a Q&A towards the end of the message. Where you'll be able to ask questions to all of our presenters who have been up here. So again, you guys can put that in your Facebook comments or in your YouTube comments, or if you want to come up and write a note and bring it up to me, I'll be happy to share that as we're asking questions a little bit later. Again, thank you so much for being here at Hope for Hurting Hearts.
Leaders, I'm John Boston. I want to tell you about this incredible machine behind me. It's, of course, a submarine. It was created to go undetected. Its stealth and ability to hide is its strength. You and I, we weren't created to live like that. We weren't even created to lead like that. There are hurtful experiences in our journeys that we try to push out of sight. I do it. I struggle with it all the time. But when we do that, it often causes more damage than good. I'm inviting you to join me for Leading from Your Pain. It's a series that I want you to be a part of as we discover some of the principles and practices to overcome that significant challenge. Press the button below to begin right now. You need that hurt to surface up so that you can experience what it means to lead from your pain. Press the button to get started right now. Testing. There we go. Thank you so much. If you haven't watched Leading from Your Pain, that short series online, I want to encourage you to do that. And we'll keep plugging that as we go. But I'm glad you're here. Tonight, I'm super excited because our guest is not someone that I've met recently. I've actually known her. She probably wouldn't remember this, but I've known her for 22 years. I know I look like I'm 21, but I've known her for 22 years. And she has evolved. And every evolution of her journey, she just gets better and more beautiful every single step of the way. She's one of my sheroes, and I'm super grateful that she's here. Shelley Chapman Hall is the author of Dad's Got Dementia, Life After Diagnosis. Through the care of her father, who was William Chapman, a statesman of a man, someone that I absolutely looked up to. I'll tell you a story about he and I later. That book has become a go-to expert resource for tips on everyday care. I'm slowing down. Thank you. She is an accomplished blogger and a sought-after presenter who provides a wealth of practical information that most families can readily adopt when supporting a loved one dealing with this disease. She is going to come tonight to talk to us about her experience and how she's helped countless others as they face this very same thing. Why don't you put your hands together and welcome Shelley Chapman Hall. If you're watching online, just type the word ready to let me know you're ready for this interview. Shelley, so good to see you.
You as well.
You are a treat. You're always wonderful. Yeah, it is a high chair. Don't fall. We didn't pay fall out of the chair insurance for this event. Before I begin, I want to say thank you to Don Davis, who is our senior host for all of this, and Ross Knight and their team. And they've been putting a lot of work in behind the scenes. Want to say thank you to Rob and Doc Marshall and Devin as well, who work in our media team behind the scenes. So appreciate them so much. Shelley, you came in today. Are you comfortable? Everything's good?
Everything is good.
All right.
As long as I can sit in this chair.
Yeah, just put all the weight there. Leave it alone. You'll be fine. I want to start with a question that is probably it's a loaded question. Okay. But my question is, what was the most difficult part of this journey for you? Tell me a little bit about what Dad's Got Dementia is, what you've created, and tell me what was the most difficult part about it all.
Okay, so my father was diagnosed with dementia some years ago, 11 years ago, and that diagnosis was pretty hard. But I believe just going through the journey with him was, we adapted to it, but it was definitely hard. The hardest part, though, was after 11 and a half years of caring for him at home, going with him through every doctor's appointment, all the ups and downs that you can imagine with dementia, and then it just comes to an end. That was hard. Yeah. I would say, you say that you're ready, you have 11 and a half years to get ready, but you're never ready.
Yeah.
So I would say that's it.
I think one of my mentors and I, we talked about your story because you shared this story publicly. Your family agreed to share this story publicly. And I knew your father. He was, I would say he was a mentor. And we spent good time together. He came to my rescue a few times. And he was just a brilliant man. He was a man's man. I say if heaven had a John Wayne, it would be William Chapman in my mind. But when you take a different approach to this. I hear people say when they have to say goodbye to a loved one with dementia or neurologically degenerative disease like this, they say it's like saying goodbye twice. But it doesn't seem you take that position. Oh. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, once he was diagnosed, this is all new. This was all new to all of us. heard about Alzheimer's, which is a form of dementia, but never really understood it. So, really just educating myself, my siblings, we all educated ourselves, and then we just went with it.
Mm.
So it wasn't a matter of, we didn't go day by day thinking, oh, he's going to be gone tomorrow, or look what he can't do today. We never took it like that. We really took it day by day, and we just met him where he was every
Mm.
single day. So if in the morning he could not walk for whatever reason, that's okay. We have Hoyer lifts, we have things that we can do, and we just carried on. So we did not experience the death twice. It
Mm.
really was, he was alive. We took him on vacations, we took him on walks, we took him to restaurants, just things normal people do. So
Yeah.
it really wasn't an experience we had twice. We only had it once.
Wow. I have a few more questions, but if you're watching and you're here in the Spartanburg area, this 864 region, Shelley's book, Dad's Got Dementia. While she's here, I'm going to give some copies out. And if you're watching in this region, all you have to do is send us a direct message and let us know you're watching tonight. And we're going to send you a signed copy of Dad's Got Dementia. If you're in the audience tonight and you like a signed copy tonight, a few of you, I'm going to make sure I give out some. Does that sound all right? Well, yeah, thank you, Shelley. This is an incredible, incredible gift. One of the, I thank you for sharing this, the difficulty of the finality of,
Right.
of coming to the end of 11 and a half years. When you hit that space, and I know that you're a brilliant communicator, and I know that you help so many people process this type of journey. The word that comes to my mind is grief. I don't know if that's how you would describe it, but what happened to get you from that place, that sense of finality, to being able to embrace a world where the voice and the smile and the eyes of a William Chapman were not there?
That's a really tough question, because it's still new. Like,
Mm.
it happened in January.
Mm.
And so, when you have a situation and you have time to go through it, and you know what the end is going to be, not focusing on it, but you know what the end is going to be, you have time to do everything you need to do and say and feel,
Mm.
so that when that time comes, you're really at that point only grieving the actual loss at that point.
Yeah.
So to get through that, I mean, that of course takes time to get over not seeing him there. And another note, my father was a big guy. And even in the state he was in, when he reached that final stage, he lived with my husband and I. My parents, we decided at some point it was time to, get a place and live together. But he filled the whole house.
Mm.
And when he was gone, the first night that we were there, we walked in the house and it's just an empty space.
Mm.
Because he filled up the whole house. So getting used to that, helped too. It
Yeah.
helps, you can't deny what has happened. There is no such thing as being in denial, because
Yeah.
this whole force is gone from the house. So really just it being right there and being realistic with where we were, and just really being able to say, okay, we did 11 and a half years of being able to serve him. And, it has to come to an end.
Wow.
We can't let him go on like this.
Wow.
So it really was a matter of thankfulness, appreciation, but of course, a loss.
Sure. Wow. If I don't know what those moments look like for you, because every person experiences trauma differently. But if you could go back to some dark moments, if there were any, and you could give yourself some advice, knowing what you know now, having the experience that you have now, what would you say to Shelley 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 11 and a half years ago? What would you say?
You know, there are so many things that I could say. I had to write a couple of things down so that I
Go
wouldn't
for it.
get up here and start rambling, because there are so many things um, that I wanted to or would have told myself.
Yeah.
One of them is don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm,
And that really is applicable to my family. I have 4 other siblings, and we took this journey together. And I think the first half of the journey, there was some bickering between us, but we were trying to figure out what was happening. And so I know myself, I was probably a little, pushy with some of the little things. And I think it was just trying to get a handle.
sure.
So I would say don't even spend your time. Don't waste the energy on that.
Mm.
That's what I would tell myself. The second thing is you're doing enough. We gave my father every creature comfort. We did everything we could do for him. We made sure he was comfortable. I was a real stickler for bedtime.
Mm.
I wanted to make sure that he was cozy in his bed. I would get in his bed to make sure that what he was feeling, I could feel and say, oh no, it's bumpy over here, or, I need some more covers over here. So, I just wanted to make sure that he had what he needed. So I would tell myself, if I could go back and do it, you've done enough.
Sure. Sure.
And then finally, the last thing I would say is, girl, your back is going to kill you.
Yeah.
We had to physically maneuver my father. He was a big guy. And we physically moved him. We physically did what needed to be done. He was not in a home. He wasn't in a hospital. So everything that needed to be done, we did it. And I have a bad back to prove it. So that's what I would tell myself.
Sure.
Watch your back.
Be careful with that. I think tonight there's a lot of people here who they may know someone who has experienced this particular type of journey, but they may not have themselves had to provide this type of care.
Right.
However, they have had similar trauma or
Right.
similar hurt
Right.
because of a loss of someone that they love, a strength in their life.
Right.
Maybe it was even a dream or a hope. If you had to look into that camera out over this audience and speak to someone who has just heard that a part of their life that means so much is going to slip away.
Mm.
It may be short or it may be a long period of time.
Right.
What would you say to that person?
I would say, for all of my believers and all of those who are on the journey to believing, you got to believe in God's promises. That is what holds you up. That's what you can rely on. And I have 3 verses that, if you want to jot them down, that just keeps you kind of grounded. The first one is Deuteronomy 31, and verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. The second one is 1 Peter 5:7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And then finally, Isaiah 41:13, for I am the Lord your God who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. So I would say, begin to search these verses where God has made promises, because without that promise, you don't have that hope. And, we are looking for the day when we can meet my father again. And we have relied on the promises of God to get us to the point of being able to walk with him through that journey and to come out on the other side sane.
Yeah.
So that's That's probably one of the things that I would say. The other, I wrote down a couple of other things. You don't have to do this alone. A lot of times we feel like it's a shameful thing if someone is ill. If you are ill, you don't have to do this alone. There are so many people out there just like you. It may not be the same illness, but we've all gone through different types of trauma.
Mm.
And then finally, my final thought would be to live in the now. No matter what it is that you're dealing with, your loved one is dealing with, focus on the here and now. Just deal with what's going on today. Don't worry about tomorrow, because it's a long journey. Sometimes it's a short journey. Sometimes it's unexpected. But take every single day and what it brings and just live in that.
Wow. Shelley Chapman Hall, Dad's Got Dementia, Life After Diagnosis. If you're here tonight and you'd like a copy of this, and you're one of our guests, and this is your first time coming tonight or your second time coming tonight, I'm going to make a copy available for you. And I believe this local site has a small library, or we'll make sure there's one left here that you can use here or there. As a matter of fact, I'll just give out as many as I can tonight. I'll do that. So if you need one, I want to encourage you to do that. If you're watching and you're grateful for Shelley, just write "Thank you, Shelley" or "Thanks, Shelley" in the comments. And I want to remind you, if you're watching, you're in this area, we'd love to send you a copy of Dad's Got Dementia. And it's brilliant. And I certainly want to let you know that she's going to come back just after my talk tonight. She's going to come back and answer some questions. So if you have a question or a comment, please leave that in the comment section. If you're here on site, you can let Ross know, or one of our other team members, what your comment or question is. We'd be happy to follow up in the end. Does that sound all right? Let's give Shelley Chapman Hall a hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley.
Wasn't that amazing? In fact, Miss Shelley, we were listening. I was watching some of the comments here. Several people had commented that they've also been affected. And one commenter, Benjamin, was talking about lost a grandfather to dementia. And so, one of the things that we promise here at Hope for Hurting Hearts is that we're not trying to give you anything generic as we're presenting. We're trying to share we want people not just sharing things that they've been through. Some people who are going to present are also going to share about things they are currently going through or currently wrestling with. And so one thing that we promise you within these messages is that you will be getting something that is real and genuine, authentic, and transparent. So again, thank you so much, Shelley, for being real with us. And we look forward to sharing a few of the questions that I've already received, and look forward to your answers as well. In the day and age that we're living in, I mentioned before, you look on the news, there's nothing good going on. You see what's happening out in the world. You see what's happening in our own communities. It just seems like it can't get any worse. And so you might be tempted to ask the question, how did we get here? Like, what transpired that led us to this point? Well, tonight, John is going to be sharing a message. He's going to kind of tell us how things began in the beginning as to what led us to where we are today. And so today, I know, like I said, one of the very top comments that we heard, the very first comment was, "I'm ready to be blessed." Well, this evening, I know that you're going to experience a real blessing, and hopefully you'll be able to experience hope towards the future. So we're going to have a little video to be played, followed by John Boston.
Well, welcome back to Hope for Hurting Hearts. We're in our second night. It's really moving along quite beautifully. We've got amazing, beautiful people that are here each night. I want to say a special welcome again to my family and friends from the deaf and hearing impaired community. It's such an honor to have you here. They told me last night you have beautiful teeth, but you talk too fast. And so I'm going to make sure I slow that down just a little bit. I'll slow that down just a little bit. I want to thank Shelley Chapman Hall again for being here. If you're watching, Dad's got dementia, life after diagnosis. This is our free gift to you tonight. All you've got to do is send us a direct message on YouTube or Facebook at Spartanburg SDA. We're going to make sure we follow up and send you that gift if you're here in this Spartanburg area. If you're not, let us know. We'll figure out what we can do to be a blessing to your journey. Also, for those of you that are here tonight, let us know. We want to make a few copies available. We want you to leave with a very special gift, especially for those that are here for the first time or second time tonight. I am going to tackle something that is quite difficult to navigate. I know we have some mental health professionals, and so I'm not going to go too deep so as to embarrass myself, but I want to go deep enough so that we can leave here feeling as though we really looked at this subject matter with an open mind. There is this debate, this ongoing debate about nature versus nurture, or is what makes a person how they were raised, is that what makes a person? Or is it really simply how they were born? I know that you know by now I was adopted. I just met my biological family. My family is my family. My mother and father that raised me, they're my mom and dad, and will always be. I cherish our relationships. I talked to my cousin Krista tonight, who's planning to come and visit real soon. My Aunt Van and Aunt Mildred came over to Australia for almost 6 weeks to spend time with me. I'm very close with all of my cousins and uncles and aunts. But there were things about me that no one else in my family shared. For me, I have a love for animals. I love snakes and dogs and cats and tarantulas or arachnids. I go swimming with whales. My family says that must be in your blood because you didn't get it from us. But at the same time, my father nurtured these things in me. When I would have long days in school or I'd have difficult testing periods, he'd take me to the pet store. I remember I loved being outdoors. My mom, when she could, she was a registered nurse. She would take me to the beach, and it'd just be a mother-son picnic on the beach. And so they nurtured a heart for service as well. I would see my father and mother do all types of things, but there were still things about my personality that couldn't be explained because of how I was raised. So last year, I met my biological mother. And guess what? They're animal lovers. They love to do things in the outdoors. They go on big hunts every year. There's so many similarities that it's almost eerie. And so I have to deal with this difficult question. Am I who I am because of how I was raised or because of how I was born? Well, I want to let you know that social science doesn't have a single answer to this. Humanity is so complex and so diverse that you can be raised in a home that practices one thing. You get to a certain age where you have absolutely no interest in the practices of that lifestyle, and you shift in a totally different direction. Or you could be raised in a home with a mother and father that loves to eat a certain way. The food is ultra spicy, but you can't stand even black pepper. Something about the way you were born, your genetic makeup. But there's one thing that all social scientists agree on. Maybe not where we come from or if it's how we were raised, but there is one thing that they do agree on. That every single human being changes over time. We get stuck in our ways. We choose our habits. We decide our personality. Of course, in some ways it's forged or shaped. But in many ways, we decide how we're going to respond. how we're going to act if we face a certain challenge or opportunity again. Did you know that there are two great schools of thought about where human beings actually came from? Two great schools. There are many other ideas that fit under these two very large umbrellas, but tonight I want to address one in particular. There's a book that's a part of a large volume of books, many books, 66 of them to be exact. And it's a book called Beginning. It's called Genesis. And in this book of Genesis, in the very beginning, it gives an account of how humanity and the world came into existence. There is this idea, this theory that we have evolved over time. And as we evolve, our strengths are held on. We hold on to our strengths, and those become the building blocks of the next phase of our evolution. And that over time, we get better. Well, I want to tell you that the most preserved document in all of history, the most preserved document in the world, has this record in the book of Genesis, first passed down through stories and oral tradition, but later written thousands of times. In most indigenous tribes and cultures around the world, there is a similar story that rings true, but this one survived moving from oral to written tradition, which is a good indication of its authenticity, that it's actually true. In Genesis, this story of the beginning, it tells us that God created the world in 6 literal days. That there was nothing, that the world was void. It was empty. It didn't have any shape or form. And that he stepped out and he spoke all life into existence. It's a radical thought, but I remember traveling to Nepal, and I was there with my good friend Rowan Deanshaw, and we stopped at an artist's booth in the heart of a small town just outside of Kathmandu. And while we were there, he had this beautiful artwork of a principle or an idea called How We Arrive at Nirvana, or how we move on into another phase of existence or being. And I shared with the artist how beautiful his artwork was. And I thought to myself, I wish it were that simple. And I guess he could see the expression on my face. He said, "Tell me what you believe." I said, "Oh, I believe in many things, but what are you asking me?" He said, "What is your faith?" And I told him, I have faith in God. And I believe that God created the world, and we took a different path, and he has a plan to restore everything that we've lost. And he put his hand over his chest and he nodded his head. He said, "Your faith is reflected in your face." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "When I created this artwork, I created what I thought the story looked like. In your face, I can tell you are okay with not knowing what the story looked like, as long as you know who writes the story." Here, my dear friend, the story in Genesis 1 is a story of great conflict. I will not try to convince you of something that there's so many others that have not yet been convinced of. But what I will tell you, it is a preserved story. And historians all agree that the things that are most well preserved are oftentimes most true. In Genesis chapter 1, we get this historical account that from one day to the next, for 6 literal days, God creates the world. From separating the water from the sky and creating a spectrum of light at first, and then telling the land to come forth from the water, from putting the sun, the moon, and the stars where they hang in the universe, to putting the earth into its orbit around the sun and the moon around the earth, telling the ocean how far it should go. We have this beautiful account, and we understand in Genesis chapter 1 that he says that everything that he made was good. And then in chapter 2 of Genesis, we get a different story. In Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That idea over thousands of years is consistently reinforced by different authors, many of whom did not know the original author of this text and inherited ideas over time through oral and, in some instances, written tradition. In Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2, this idea of a literal 6-day creation week is born, and it has perpetuated every single culture on the planet. Here, I want to introduce this whole story. On the first day, in Genesis 1:3-5, God creates light, a spectrum by which we can measure darkness and the visible spectrum and non-visible spectrum. On day 2, according to Genesis 1:6-8, he spoke the sky and the sea into existence. He made an expanse between the water, separating the water above the earth. He called it the firmament or the atmosphere. It's amazing. It seems like he's building things in the right order to sustain what would come after it. On the third day, he gathered the water and together to reveal dry land. Verse 9-13 of Genesis 1. On the fourth day, he created these lights in the sky. As I mentioned, the sun and the moon and the stars. He made the sun to rule over the day and the moon to rule over the night. It's actually quite a beautiful story. Our parents, they lost their home in a flood. They lived there my entire life. And they're building a home now. And as they build a home, the builder keeps finding roadblocks or their issues. And we push back 1 week and 1 month and 2 months. And we're 4 months late now. But one thing I noticed is that the builder couldn't put the roof on until the walls were up. He couldn't put the walls up until there was a foundation. If he tried to do things out of order, we certainly would be in a difficult place. It seems here that this creation has order to it. And on the fifth day, he creates these living creatures. And then every time he says that it was good. And he says the evening and the morning were the fourth day. On the sixth day, he creates these beasts of the land and all of these creeping things. Then God does something very different. He touches the dirt. According to Genesis chapter 1, it says, what's more, this living being was created in God's image according to his likeness. He forms what the Bible calls man out of the dirt or the dust of the ground. And he breathes into him. But the Bible refers to as the breath of life, and man became a living soul. It was a crowning act. It was the pinnacle of all creation. And we understand that on the seventh day, instead of God creating anything else, he gave a gift to humanity called rest. Have you ever found that when you work constantly, you don't function the same? It seems that if you go from one job to the next and one issue to the next, you seem to deplete yourself and your battery just doesn't seem to charge up. Have you ever rested a full night's rest and you still woke up tired? Here, somebody said, I'm ready to go to sleep now. Well, here, God, he introduced a rest and he gave it to humanity. And he called it a memorial to his creation. He said, I want you to always remember what I've done. There's one great scientist who said if every man took a rest, every human being took a rest on the seventh day, they would have never forgotten that God was the creator. to look back, take a walk, spend time with family, gather with people that love the Creator and creation. Here, that's what he did in Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. But unfortunately, humanity was created with a choice. And I shouldn't say unfortunately, it was a gift, just like this rest. Humanity was told that there's a tree in the midst of this garden, this home that I've placed here for you. And you can eat from any tree in the garden. But if you eat from this tree, I'm telling you not to. If you eat from this tree, you will know evil, and you will surely die. But what do you know? Humanity decided to trust itself, and they ate from that tree. The very arbitrary tree that God said don't touch. He created this choice. Humanity was tempted, and they fell. In Genesis 1:31, the Bible says that everything God created was very good. The creation was complete. Eden, this home, this beautiful home in this beautiful world, it bloomed, and Adam and Eve, they had free access to live forever in perfection. There was nothing that was wrong with the world. There was no disease. There was no decay. There was no blight on the planet. There was no death. God told them if they ate from that forbidden tree in Genesis 2:15 through 17 that they would surely die, but they decided to trust themselves and to trust an enemy who abided in that place, who lived there. And they plunged the whole world into rebellion. In Scripture, for over thousands of years, this story is told, and the record is crystal clear. God created a perfect world. Humanity made a choice against God because God gives all things he creates, all of humanity, he gave us a choice. And in Romans 5-8, in a letter written by an author named Paul, who was born a Hebrew, but a Roman citizen as well, he wrote to the people that believed in the way as he believed in Romans chapter 5-8. And Paul wrote about this thing called sin and how it changed the whole world. He said, sin enters the world through one man, and death through sin. And in this way, death came to all people. Romans 5:12. Well, here's where it matters, folks. Here's where it matters. If you're watching tonight, I want you to put the word tree in the comments. That tree got us here. Put tree in the comments. If we believe that humanity is actually getting better, if we were to believe that, it would go against the oldest truth that we have ever been told. It would go against the truth that when we move away from God's plan, we don't get better. We're worse off. Death has been present for thousands of years in this world. Disease, loss, and every day it gets worse. You don't have to take my word for it. I know I'm a good-looking speaker. I know you love my beautiful smile, but you don't have to take my word for it. Do you remember the time when you could leave your front door open and go out and come back and everything was still in place? Do you remember feeling when you were younger, the world was safer than it is now? Even if there were no news stations, doesn't it just seem that today, in general, around the world, things are not getting better? We move politicians, but the politics still hurt. We try to embrace different ideas for our lives, but all the good eating in the world doesn't seem to fix the broken hearts. We get upgrades in our relationships, But it seems we still face challenges deep down on the inside. We raise children to do the right thing, and we have to deal with a heartbreaker when they make the wrong decision. Addictions, finding their ways into the lives of people that are just trying to find an escape. My dear friend, why is it so important to hear this beautiful message? Not my message, but the message of Genesis 1 and 2. It's important because God wants you to know where you come from. If you know where you come from, it makes a difference on where you land. We can see over and over again that from creation to today, humanity is in trouble. If death is not related to the decision that Adam and Eve made in that place, then there wouldn't be a need for someone to pay a price for all of the wrong that we do. There's something I heard someone call an old rugged cross. It's actually, it was a form of crucifixion. Like today, we have lethal injection or an electric chair or a firing squad or a hanging. Well, the Roman form, the most excruciating form of crucifixion, was on a cross. Do you know what a cross was made of? It was made of a tree. It was made of wood. How interesting that Paul wrote to the people in Rome that sin entered the world through one man, and it's going to get its exit from another. How interesting that we lost everything at one tree. And with Jesus, when he gave his life in true historical records, we gained everything at another tree. We found death at a living tree, and we found life at a dead one. When Jesus came, he came to pay the price for what Adam and Eve did because they could not pay for it themselves. Humanity is not getting better. The world is not getting better. But you can in your heart. You can find peace in the midst of a storm. You can find hope when the hurt is overwhelming. Tonight, as I share this simple principle, I'm not trying to tell you something that has not been told before. I'm introducing you to something that has changed countless lives. And I want to ask you to consider if the only path for humanity is destruction without what Jesus did, then tell me more about that Jesus. I don't know what your journey looks like, but I have been on the other side of a visitation on death row where hardened criminals, men and women, I couldn't even shake their hand or embrace them as they cried when I shared this story. And they have said to me, I have done so much wrong. Can Jesus do anything with my life? Well, there was one old speaker, and he said that I have seen God do so much with so little that I now believe he can do something with anything, including me. My friend, I know that there's hurt in this world, but just as sure as there's hope, just as sure as there's hurt, there's hope. Shelley Chapman Hall, she hit a brick wall when she and her family learned that her father, who was a giant of a man, was facing dementia. And she said tonight that the way she made it through was her hope that only Jesus could give. We heard a story today from our assistant city manager about the journey that he took and how people encouraged his life. We heard last night from an NFL star who went all the way to the Super Bowl. That's at the highest point of the game. And each of them, over and over again, they said somehow, some way, it was faith and the love of others that helped them make it through. What I want to present to you tonight is that you're not alone and that you have this hope. I'm encouraged because no matter how bad it gets, I know that I was created. I know that humanity has messed up. And I know that Jesus has given us a way of escape. And I want to take the journey of learning about that hope with you. If you're here tonight and you want to learn about that hope, or you want to embrace that hope, just lift your hand wherever you are. And if you're watching, I just want you to write again the words hope. And we're going to pray for you. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for every hand that was raised. And we thank you, Lord, for every person that's writing hope right now. Show us how to help each other. In Jesus' name, amen. Was that slow enough? Is my smile still pretty? Am I still beautiful? I want to give you all a copy of this book. Shelby, pass this over for me. And congratulations on your healthy, beautiful baby boy on the way. Tonight, Ross is going to come and we're going to bring Shelly Chapman Hall. We have a few questions and comments. How many of you glad you came tonight? I'm so glad you came. Now, you don't have to clap if you mean it, but I'm going to choose to believe you. So since you decided to clap, I'm going to come back tomorrow night and I'm going to talk about something else. And as we do every night, we end early. Is this the shortest talk you've ever heard? Maybe not, but I try to make it short enough where you keep coming back. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, but let's go to our questions and comments. If you're watching online now, this is the best time to put a comment. If this made a difference in your journey, in your experience, just leave a comment so that we know we're going in the right direction. Ross, what do you have tonight?
Well, Shelly, I'm gonna start with you, and I just want to give you a couple comments before I get to the questions. The first, the one comment you're gonna really want to hear is, you and your siblings did a great job taking care of your dad.
Thank you.
Let's step up a little bit, guys.
So one question was asked for Shelly. It says, "What helped you past your initial grief?"
The initial grief of learning that my father had dementia was education. So I needed to understand everything that was going on with this type of disease, and then family. I can't stress that enough. You have to come together as a family. You need that strength from each other, that support from each other, and that's what got me through.
Let me interrupt there. Shelly, you said something that I really appreciate, because I have heard over and over again people say, watching, and those that are guests here, I'm alone. I don't have anyone else. And you mentioned something that was meaningful. You said there are a lot of people going through what you go through. So you've created groups, but there are also groups out there. So I want to let you know, if you don't have 4 brothers and sisters that can help in that way, there are beautiful resources. And if you need help finding them, send us a direct message and we'll make sure to connect you with a resource in your area.
And just to add on to that, we are supposed to be that resource for someone else. So reach out to people that we know are hurting and need that support.
What inspired you to write your book?
That was a part probably of my dealing with this whole situation. I started vlogging where I documented my family's everyday interaction with my father, what it looked like, the challenges that we faced. So that was all just a part of healing for me. And then it just morphed into something bigger where others were starting to inbox me and, needing help. So it was selfishly started to help me get through it.
One more question for you, Shelly. Thank you for that. And one person wrote, "What is the best way to prepare when the end comes?"
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. One thing I can say, and I probably said it through our whole journey, is that we have to be able to say no regrets. Now, what that means for each individual could be different, but for me and my family, it meant that we put everything on the table.
Mm.
My father wanted for nothing.
Mm.
He was never in any distress over not having something, not being cared for. So we put it all on the table. We walked away with no regrets.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
John, I got a couple comments for you. I know you like the comments as
Yeah.
well as the questions here. Okay,
Ross thinks I'm an egomaniac, but I'm not. Love language is affirmation.
he said words of affirmation is his love language. So I'm just going to give you a couple. One that every preacher wants to hear. One person said, keep preaching, okay?
Well, if they think I'm a preacher, I'll take it. I like that. I think Shelly's a much better speaker than me. She's certainly better looking. So thank you so much for that.
Another person said, amazing that God could build the world in just 1 week. And another person, I like this comment, it said, I wish I could see creation on replay.
Wow. Well, did you know that I'm actually going to talk about something on the very last night that we're together? And I'm actually going to touch on that, but that's a great concept, creation on replay. One thing that I think is incredible, I haven't seen the whole world. I've been to 47 countries. I've been to 6 continents.
I haven't even been to 47 states, 47 countries. That's amazing.
Been to 47 countries, 6 continents, and I haven't even seen 1% of the world. And my thought is, if God created the world in 6 literal days, then what can he do with our lives in a moment? And that's very comforting to me.
One question's a smidge off topic, but I'm going to ask it anyways. It says, how was that first encounter with your biological mom? There was also another comment that said, can't wait to hear your mom's your biological mom's story.
Wow.
Is that coming later, or do you
Yes.
want to share any of that right now?
Yeah, no, tomorrow night, I struggled with infertility. And as a matter of fact, Shelly stood with my family when we dedicated our daughter. She was there when I announced that we were having a daughter. And so it was quite a miracle. And so I struggle with infertility. And there's a lot of people that struggle with this, and they take that journey in different ways. And tomorrow night, Ross and his wife are going to be sharing their journey, where they are right now. And so that's going to be quite powerful. Ross is doing a great job. Why don't we give him a hand real quick?
I told you we were going to get real with y'all this week, and that's going to happen.
That's a really deep topic, and I'm grateful. I'm humbled that you'd be willing to share. But I'll be able to share more of my story, what it was like to meet her. I didn't know I needed this, Shelly, Ross. I didn't know it, but we talked on the phone before we met in person. And I'll tell you about that conversation or the text because that was just unbelievable. But when we met in person for the first time and we hugged, she whispered in my ear, I never wanted to give you up. I prayed that I would have this moment again. The last time I held you was when you were a baby in the hospital. And I didn't know how much I needed to hear that, because the human mind is so brilliantly crafted that when we face hurt or trauma, instead of trying to process it, the mind will file it, but it comes out in different ways. For me, I dealt with a sense of rejection, even though I was in a very, very loving home. And so that's what it felt like in that moment. It was cathartic. It was the deepest sense of relief I think I've ever experienced. Thank you for that. And I 100% agree. We're gonna share a little. We're gonna definitely have a talk tomorrow. Yeah. Comparing notes a little bit here. I wanted to save a hard question for the last one. I'm gonna save you a little bit. Your hardest question here says, why does it feel like science and the creation story contradict each other? I think it feels like it. It does feel like it because it doesn't. Science is the creation story's greatest contributor. Scientists are often trying to discover. Do you know that every single year, thousands of new animals, plants, species are discovered? It is estimated that humanity is only aware of 3% of every living thing on the planet. You can look that up. We're only aware of 3% of every living thing on the planet. We haven't even mapped the entire ocean, all of the oceans in the world. And so science is a journey of discovery, whereas creation is an establishment of identity. In science, we are trying to find answers that creation has already given. Science is a contributor to creation. It is not a competitor. Martin Hanna, he's one of my colleagues, and he teaches at one of the most diverse universities in America and in the world, I should say. And
good friend.
Yeah, is he? Please let him know I'm a fan. I'm not, a big time like you where I can call him on the phone. But Martin, I'm not. Ross can drop a name. I might have to go out and go to a restaurant I've been trying to get in over in Greenville, but I have to know somebody to get in. So I'll let you know about that. But he posted recently about this dialogue between creation and evolution. And one of the things that I thought was absolutely incredible, the human eye can actually only perceive a fraction of the light spectrum. We can only see a fraction of the light spectrum, not even 10%. So if the human eye, because you think about it, what are some other tools that we use to see other things? We use X-rays, we use ultrasound, we use thermal cameras, we use night vision. All of these things are tools. We use telescopes, microscopes. All of these are tools to help us expand our ability to see what's out there. Electron microscopes, which my alma mater, Oakwood University, if your electron microscope ever got out of focus, it was because I played with it in the lab when nobody was looking, because I wanted to see if I could see my own blood. But at any rate, see the cells in my own blood. But at any rate, the point that I'm making is, if our own eyes can only see a fraction of everything that exists, and we have to use these tools to try to discover more. And we have a story that has been preserved for thousands of years. It seems that that story has revealed to us the greatest mystery of where we come from, so we can answer the simple mystery of how it all works. And that's what science does.
Amazing. That was the last question I had. I'm going to cut it off right there before John breaks his promise of going well past 8 here this evening.
Again, I was done at 7:55. You took all the time.
Well, he's really blaming the people asking the questions is the problem here. No. Hey, thank you all so much for being here. We want to give a big round of applause for John and Shelley for sharing with us, being transparent. I can only speak for myself, but I very much appreciate authentic transparency. And so thank you for demonstrating that to us. We look forward to seeing each of you out tomorrow evening. Again, what time? You guys sound a little bit confused right there. Okay, so 6:30, right? Again, for those of you who are watching online, the live stream will turn on at 7 p.m. Those of you who come here as an incentive, you get some delicious refreshments and things to come and join, as well as be able to catch John or anyone else here to talk to if you have any in-person questions as well. Again, thank you so much for tracking with us at Hope for Hurting Hearts.
Hold on, let me put that Hey, I'm John Boston. I want to tell you about something special, but do you see all of these tires? Every single one of them has been used, but they've got more tread life left, which means they're going to go on vehicles to get people where they need to go. In my life, I faced some difficulties that wore me down. I'm glad I didn't give up though. Do you know why? Because I've got more tread life left and I've got places to go. I've got things that I want to experience, things I have experienced that encourage me to keep going. Join me for Leading from Your Pain, where we talk all about the tread life that you've got left in your journey. I'm encouraging you to press this button right here. I want you to be a part of this journey, leading from your pain. I've got a lot of tread life left, and so do you.